Hello, everybody. Again, thank you very much for joining me today for our next episode, Learning with Expert. My name is Yevgen Pitelman. I'm with Coldwell Banker Real Estate Office. And today, my guest is Brenda Posner with Langdon Title. Hi, Brenda. Thank you very much for taking the time and joining me today.
Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And today, as we agreed with Brenda, she is going to share with us what kind of title issues, what kind of findings she can share with us on a case by case basis, what kind of things that happens with these findings, and what is her role in order to either resolve them or to pass along if the deal can actually be closed with those issues. Again, Brenda, thank you so much. Microphone is yours.
Well, thank you so much for having me. So everyone, again, I'm Brenda Posner. I'm the Executive Director of Sales at Langdon Title, as well as the Educational Coordinator and the Title Closer. And I love that all these different titles and names because what it really does is it gives me the ability to oversee all my deals, from educating agents all the way through handling and overseeing and helping with the transaction to actually the closing and beyond. So again, thank you so much for having me.
Sure. Okay, so as we agreed last time, I would like to hear what is it exactly that happens once you find what kind of things. First of all, what kind of things that you can find while with doing the title search, and with each case, whether it's on a regular basis or maybe something unique, what happens next? What do you do about those things? What and how do you resolve the issues?
So there's so many.
And also, yeah, before I forget, so the other thing, let's consider that we do deals in Brooklyn,
Mhm.
and let's consider to take into consideration that we have so many different types of properties: residential, commercial, single family, co-op, condos, you name it, and you know them better than anyone. So, and if there's any particular issue that's related to any of these properties specifically, that will be also good to know.
So let's see. Well, I think what I've found, and it's really not, this would be to start, it's not really a title issue. So when we do the searches to see the legal use of the property as part of the title search, we call them municipal searches. We'll find out. So maybe another agent, not Eugene, will be advertising a property as a 5-family. We'll get the title report back, and the title report will show it's a legal 4-family. Now, that is not a title issue. We're just putting that out there for information, but that could be a buyer-seller issues.
Okay.
So that's why, as I said in a previous episode, why it's so important to check the legal use so you know what you're getting. Okay, but that's not a title issue.
Yeah.
Types of title issues that come up are, so there's all sorts of debt against the property, judgments, liens, list pendants. And, when I started, I thought it was so interesting. A judgment could be something as simple as a garbage ticket, an ECB lien, $25 or an up. It could be a parking violation.
Yeah.
If you own property or if you don't pay a parking ticket, it will go on as a judgment against you. And if you own property, then it has to be paid off before closing or at closing potentially. So those are like your potential simple things. The liens got more and more complicated, and they're all different types, whether they're IRS tax liens, New York State tax liens, child support liens, mechanics liens from work that was done on the property that wasn't paid for, a foreclosure lien, which is a list pendants, and that's a lawsuit against the property. So there's a tremendous amount of judgments of liens that we're looking for, and anything will show up against the property. Now, how do we take care of those? Well, we either need something, and we tell you if it's not you. For example, those parking tickets, well, are any of those you? Were any of those against your address? Were any of those your cars? If something like that is not you, a simple affidavit will be sufficient for that most of the time.
Mhm.
If on things like IRS tax liens, we need to get a payoff letter or something saying that it has been satisfied and paid off. So on all these other liens where there's actual monetary money due and where it is against the seller and it is against and or against the property, we need to get either proof of payment and proof that the lien was satisfied, an original satisfaction brought to the closing, or we're going to need a payoff letter brought to the closing so that it can be paid off at closing, or potentially, depending on the type of lien it is, sometimes we can escrow for it.
Mhm.
These decisions on what we'll accept to be able to remove that lien from title is something that our clearance team works on. I'll watch all the emails go. I'll make sure that everyone has seen them. I will chime in my 2 cents from what I've seen from previous deals.
Mhm.
But our clearance team is the one that's speaking with the seller's attorney, collecting the documentation that we need, collecting the payoff letters, reviewing any potential satisfactions that were submitted to us that we will then receive originals for at closing. Other issues. Okay, so these are things that can or cannot be issues, but things that we need a lot of documentation for.
Interesting. Okay.
If it's an LLC or a corporate seller or buyer, if it's a trust, there's a lot of documentation we need from the attorneys on either side proving to us that the person that's going to be signing is legally allowed to sign, that they're the authorized signatory.
So it's a little bit more complicated than if it was just a person.
If it's just an individual person, you come with your driver's license. Pretty
Right.
simple, or a passport. If it's an LLC or corporation or a trust, how do we know that you're the person who's showing up at the closing with their driver's license is the person that's authorized to sign for that entity?
Right.
Well, we need all the proper documentation. So in the title report, as we spoke about in a previous episode, it will list everything that we need. And in that summary email that goes out afterwards, it'll also list everything we need. So it's the buyer and seller's attorney's responsibility to send it to us. Now, another issue is when it's an estate sale. So if someone's buying from an estate, there's a lot of documentation we need, and sometimes there's a wait. If we're waiting, if the estate attorney and real estate attorney involved are waiting for documents from the court, there's nothing really much we can do other than wait for them to submit to us what we need. And for any of these types of entities that are buying or selling, there's potentially other affidavits that we're going to need signed other than the normal course of business buyer-seller affidavits. So we'll get all those, but those will be signed at closing unless the parties are not coming to the closing. We'll get them signed in advance.
Mhm.
Another thing that we've been seeing a lot of are these what we call ancient mortgages or prior owner mortgages.
Mhm.
And there are various ways that our clearance counsel can take care of it. And that's on a case by case basis. If it's a prior owner mortgage that was never satisfied,
Mhm.
hopefully, hopefully they took title insurance. Because if they have their title insurance policy, chances are that will clear up that issue.
Mhm.
Yeah, if they don't, we could try to see if we can find it through the various underwriters and some other, let's say, investigative research we do behind the scenes.
Yes.
Having the title insurance policy is so important to have and to hold onto, and you don't need an original. Just a scan of it, keep it in your email folder, keep it in your cloud, keep it somewhere. Once you purchase property, keep it somewhere because when you go to sell, it could clear up potential issues. So, and that's prior owner mortgages, ancient mortgages. We've been having mortgages show up from 1970, 1980s that were never satisfied.
Wow.
So, sometimes actually in a recent scenario, we were actually able to help someone and we were able to find the banks because, the banks have been merging. They merged from this name to this name. This one took over and we're actually able to find who was the beneficial owner of that bank that had given that mortgage that had never been satisfied. And someone in my office, basically almost, did all this research and was able to contact them and get an original satisfaction to be
Oh,
recorded. Now, we did that, and it was, the clients were super thankful. They were able to close and get the deal done. It's anything from something like that with an ancient mortgage to a potential affidavit to money being held in escrow. It's all situation dependent, deal dependent. There's so many things involved that we have to research to be able to make the decision on how we can close that. What will we need to feel comfortable? What will our underwriters who back us need to feel comfortable?
right.
Do
Of
we
course.
need the affidavit? Do we need escrow as well? Do we need attorney undertakings? Do we need to, or do we need to actually go back and find that satisfaction like we were able to do? So, and then many other choices. So those are types of title issues that could come up. Listen, there are some deals that are totally clean and, super easy to close, and there are other deals that have multitudes of issues. And whether it's a single family or multifamily, could be both of those could be simple and clean or complicated. When you get into larger buildings, real large multifamilies, industrial, properties, all sort, the deals are much more complicated. The mortgage chains are much more complicated. The ownership structures are much more complicated. So there's more for us to review.
Hmm.
But
Mhm.
we have, such a fabulous clearance team that is so experienced, and we're a fairly decent sized title company, and we have about 10 clearance people, in our
Oh.
office, so if one's busy, someone else can, jump in, or they could confer with each other.
And how many people usually work on one deal all together just to make sure everything is in place, everything is done approximately?
Approximately, I would say, 6 to 8 people are working on a deal. We have our team, everyone, besides, we have multiple teams at the office. So if one team is overworked, we'll have another team join in and help us.
No, I'm just saying, so how many people total involved in one deal? So like five,
One
six
deal.
people?
Oh, just in my office, probably 6 to 8 people, just in
Oh.
my office.
And they all work together just to make that one deal happen.
They all work together. They're all copied on all emails. And, I'm copied on everything, and I just also, keep an eye on it as well. There's a lot of, a lot of cooks in the kitchen to get
It's
the real
it's
estate
it's a
deal
lot of
done.
manpower, right?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a lot. Okay, great. I understand. I understand. It's not. It's you don't hear these things. Don't hear these things every day. Okay. I wanted to ask you one more question. So, from all your experience, working with professionals and home buyers and sellers and agents, um, what do you think is the biggest, the most often happen misconception, what people don't understand about title company, title insurance? Um,
Well, there's a few big ones. The first one being that it's something that has to be paid continuously. So
mhm.
title insurance, or that it can be negotiated. Title insurance is state regulated. The cost is the cost.
Okay.
It's going to be the same from one title company to another. So how you're choosing a title company should be by their experience.
Strictly, yes. Mhm.
The other thing is that, so people think that they have to pay it, annually, like homeowners insurance, and title insurance is only paid once at closing for the owner. And for the lender, every time if you take out a mortgage now and then you go to refinance in a couple of years, you have to take out new title insurance then. So the title insurance on the loan policy is good for the lifetime of the loan. The title insurance for the owner is good for the lifetime of ownership of that property. A year, 100 years, doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Uh, Another misconception, and you find it whether it's people buying from their friends. Oh, they don't have any judgments or liens. They've been living in that house. That house must be theirs. Okay, so how do you know? Without getting title insurance, you're not insured. You don't know what happened. You don't know who those people bought from. You don't know if there was a prior owner mortgage still on there. You don't know if those people, even if your friends, if you don't think they have any debt, you really don't know without the title search and the
Right.
title insurance, and you're not insured. But I think the biggest one that we were just discussing last week is with new developments.
Mhm.
When people are buying in a new development, they feel like, oh, these developers did all this due diligence on this property.
Mhm.
They got title insurance when they bought this multi-million-dollar or so building. If I'm just buying a unit in there, that's fine, right? That's enough. I don't
Yeah.
need to get title insurance again. Well, that's not the case because their financing structure on a new development is so complex, and the possibility for them having mechanics liens very common, that the buyer is not going to be insured that they were released, that their unit was released from that financing on the overall building without the title insurance. They're not insured, so by getting title insurance, they're protecting themselves that any judgments, liens that were against that developer, nothing is being transferred to them, that it's always all cleared up and that their unit was released. That's how it works on a new development. Their unit's released from all the mortgages. The building as a whole may have still all their mortgages, but it doesn't matter because their unit is released and they're insured that none of that debt, they're not going to have any responsibility for it. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest misconception.
And what might happen if you don't have that insurance, title insurance on your property on a new development, and boom,
Think
you all of a
about,
sudden you're liable for payments that the contractors didn't
you know,
make.
potentially, I mean, how you could be liable for your portion, like I'm not exactly sure how it would be calculated, and that I'm not an attorney. But potentially you could be liable for your percentage ownership interest in something that's against the building. So you want to just make sure that you have the title insurance. It's really not that expensive for the insurance coverage that you're getting.
Hmm.
And it is New York State regulated, and you are only paying it once. So it's worth
Makes sense. Yeah.
it. And really, if you speak to any real estate attorney, they'll advise you to get the title insurance. And in my, oh my God, almost 30 years or so of doing closings, I have never seen anyone not take out title insurance.
I see. I got you. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you so much for that information. Again, as I said, you don't hear this kind of information anywhere. I do hope that everybody learned something new here, and all information for Brenda company directly, Brenda phone numbers, emails, everything is attached to this video. Please feel free to get in touch with her directly. And if you have any real estate questions, you can obviously get in touch with me. Again, my information as well. Thank you, Brenda, so much for your time. We'll see you next time. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you for having me again. Bye, everyone.
Bye.